Howdy! Welcome to Aspire Mountain Academy. I am Professor Curtis, your instructor for this course in Introductory Statistics. In less than 10 minutes, this video describes how to calculate measures of center of variation for probability distributions using both StatCrunch and Excel. Let's get started. To help us with the comparison of these two different methods of calculating measures of center and variation for probability distributions, we're going to look at an example problem involving male color blindness. So, when conducting research on color blindness in males, one researcher formed random groups with 5 males in each group. So, the random variable X is the number of males in the group who have a form of color blindness, and this is all based on data from the National Institutes of Health. So, for each group of 5 males, there's a 65.8% chance that none of those 5 men have color blindness. There's a 28.7% chance that one of them has. There's a 5% chance that 2 of them have it. There's a 0.4% chance that 3 of them have it. There's a 1% chance that 4 of them have it. And then there's this 0 plus. What does this mean? Well, this means that the number is not 0, but it's so close to 0 that the first non-zero digit is actually beyond the 3 decimal places it's being reported here in the table. And so we record this as 0 plus. Instead of writing out a big long number, we just use this notation to say, yeah, it's not 0, but it's a number that's so close to 0 that for practical purposes it is. So the question we're asked is the given distribution a probability distribution? And if so, what are the mean and standard deviation? So first we're going to look at using StatCrunch to solve this problem. And then we'll check out how to do the same thing in Excel. So first up, we've got StatCrunch. So here we go. Here's how to do this in StatCrunch. Okay, here I've got my table of data in StatCrunch. And the first question we were asked is to check whether this is a probability distribution. So we can do this visually, the first part. Just look and see there's a unique probability value for each unique random variable. And then each of these probability values need to add up together to 1. So to check that, we're going to go to Stat, Summary Stats, Columns. I'm going to select those probability values. And then down here, I'm going to select Sum. Now you notice that the next question asks us for the mean and the standard deviation. So if we select those here, we can get values out for those. But those won't be the values for the probability distribution, as I'll explain here in a minute. So here in our results window, we see everything adds up to 1. So this is a probability distribution. However, the mean and standard deviation values are just the values for the probabilities that are listed here, not for the distribution as a whole. To get the values for the mean and the standard deviation of a probability distribution, I need to go to a distribution calculator. So to get there, I'm going to go to Stat, Calculator, and we're not told that this conforms to any specific distribution. It's just a general probability distribution. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the list and click Custom. The values are going to be the random variable, which is the X, and the weights are going to be the probabilities. Boom, here's my custom calculator, and here's the real mean and standard deviation. Notice how these numbers here in the calculator are very different from the ones calculated here with summary stats. So, when you're looking for mean and standard deviation of a distribution, don't use the summary stat option in StatCrunch. Instead, make sure you use a distribution calculator to get your mean and standard deviation. And that's all there is to it. Okay, excellent. Now let's check out how to do the same thing in Excel. Okay, I've got the same table of data here in Excel, and I'm going to show you how to do in Excel what we just did in StatCrunch. So to check whether this is a probability distribution, all I need to do is first look to make sure there's a unique probability value for each random variable, and there is, and then I just select the column of probabilities, and then down here at the bottom I see a sum right here, and the sum is 1 exactly. Not 1.00 something, not 0.999 something. No, it's 1 exactly. Therefore, this is a probability distribution, and I can go ahead and tabulate my results. So I've got the columns labeled here with the functions that I need to calculate in order to get the mean and the standard deviation. First, let's do the column for the mean. So all I'm going to do here is multiply x, which is my A column, times the probability, which is in column B. Then if I go ahead and just copy that formula down, notice the value that came up here. That's because this is a text value in the cell and not an actual number. So we're going to consider that to be 0. And then anything times 0, 5 times 0 is just going to be 0. So we'll put a 0 here. Now what I want to do is I want to sum that column up. And that gives me my mean value, 0.403. Now to get the standard deviation, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the variance, and then at the end we'll take the sum and then the square root of that sum to get the standard deviation. So I'm just going to follow along with the formula what it says here. So the first part is I'm going to take x and multiply by the mean, subtract the mean value out. I'm going to take my x value, which is a, and then I'm going to take out this mean value here. But I want this to be the same for each formula that I copy down. So in order to keep that cell reference constant, I'm going to press F4 on my keyboard, and I get those dollar signs. That tells Excel to keep that cell reference constant. So I'm going to take the difference there, and then I'm going to raise it, second power, and I want to multiply all of that by the probability. Again, I'm going to copy this formula down. And again, we're going to have to put a 0 here. Again, anything times 0 is going to be 0. So now what I want to do is I'll take the square root of the sum. Square root of the sum of all of this here. Close out my parentheses, hit enter, and there's my standard deviation. Notice these are the same values we got earlier in StatCrunch. The StatCrunch was a lot less work, so if you want to go this route with Excel, have at it. But I prefer to do the work for this particular type of problem in Excel. So, hope that helped you out.
Yeah, actually I misspoke. I said I actually prefer to do it in StatCrunch because StatCrunch is a lot easier. So, back to the problem at hand. Is this a probability distribution? If so, what are the mean and standard deviation? Well, we answered that using both StatCrunch and Excel. So in StatCrunch, just to review, you need to use that custom calculator feature and make sure that you have a probability distribution to start off with. So you have to check that sum first. Remember to take your mean and standard deviation from the calculator, not from the summary stats. If you want to use Excel, that's fine too. You have to check to make sure that you have a probability distribution, and you have to calculate each of those separate columns for the mean and the standard deviation separately. So StatCrunch is actually a little easier because it does all that work in Excel for you. So that's the way I typically go with these types of problems. But you know how to do it both ways now, so have at it whichever way you want to go with this. And again, notice we get the same numbers out of Excel that we do out of StatCrunch. So whichever way you want to go, have at it. Again, don't use that average value there at the bottom. You have to calculate it yourself. And that brings us to the end of this mini lecture. I hope you found it helpful. You can find more mini lectures for this and other courses at AspireMountainAcademy.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.